So I'm going to start us off with an overview of the programme. So Ocean Community Empowerment and Nature is a global competitive grants programme, and that's aiming to support the people most impacted by declining ocean health and climate change through funding local solutions to local problems. So we have funding available for projects running up to the 31st of March in 2029, and therefore we'll be providing a total investment of up to 60 million in grant funding, and that's in pounds. We are the grant administrators. We at NERAS have a team of grant administrators, and that's who you'll be in touch with when you contact us over the help desk. And the funding is coming from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, which is also known as DEFRA, through the UK's Blue Planet Fund. So a little bit more about Ocean's intended impact. Ocean's impact is to place the ocean on a path to recovery, enabling local communities and nature to thrive. And it aims to do this in 3 ways: by creating a reduction in levels of multidimensional poverty, with fewer people experiencing the impacts of poverty, better protected and more sustainably used and managed marine ecosystems and ecosystem services, and increased gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, with the acronym GEDC, particularly regarding any access to resources and sustainable livelihoods in coastal ecosystems. What does Ocean fund as a programme? Well, we fund projects that reduce multidimensional poverty in ways that contribute to the protection, restoration, and sustainable management of the marine environment. And this is how we intend to reach our programme's impact. So projects applying for funding, they must also promote gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, and demonstrate how they've taken that into consideration during their project design. They should demonstrate how they contribute to climate adaptation or climate mitigation efforts, and work at the local level with organisations based in the country of implementation. And that means that they need to be based in an eligible country and meet all of the mandatory eligibility requirements, which we're going to cover later in this session. And as a competitive grants programme, we follow several grant fund principles and challenge fund principles. So first of all, this is a competitive process. It's open to everybody who meets the eligibility criteria and who are willing to compete. Only the highest scoring projects will be considered for funding. We encourage co-financing because that will help to promote ownership and commitment to projects at a local level. This isn't a requirement, but it's highly encouraged. The projects need to be encouraging localization, providing local solutions to local problems. And for innovation, we're really hoping to see a lot of innovative projects, and we really encourage applicants to submit transformational proposals that can contribute to achieving these local solutions. And for partnerships, while we have both a community grant scheme and a partnerships grants pathway, we do encourage, even in the community grants pathway, to have partnerships that help to deliver a successful project. And as I mentioned before, inclusion and equality are key principles of our programme, so we encourage you to consider this in your applications. I want to talk a bit more about our multidimensional poverty focus as a programme. So multidimensional poverty goes beyond a lack of financial resources, and it encompasses the many different barriers to people meeting their basic needs, to their well-being and being able to live a life of dignity. And coastal communities face unique challenges which make poverty alleviation crucial. They have a reliance on natural resources to sustain livelihoods. They're often far more vulnerable to the climate, including exposure to rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and degraded ecosystems. And they may be more vulnerable to social exclusion or marginalization due to their geographic isolation, potentially limited infrastructure, or lack of political representation. So Ocean as a program aims to fund projects that have integrated approaches, combining marine environmental conservation with poverty reduction measures. And these can include things like livelihood development, education, and health initiatives. And part of this multidimensional poverty reduction is gender equality, disability, and social inclusion. So it's recognized that a comprehensive understanding of gender and social dynamics is critical for informing most conservation and poverty reduction initiatives. Women, youth, people with disabilities, and other marginalized community members often face more barriers, and this can include limited access to resources, limited access to infrastructure services, and exclusion from decision-making processes. These barriers mean that marginalized groups are often less able to adapt to environmental and economic shocks and are disproportionately affected in terms of their well-being and their resilience to the impacts of climate change. So Ocean is prioritising and embedding GEDC across all elements of the grant programme to meet the ambition of being a GEDC empowering programme. So for those who aren't aware, Ocean does have these two funding pathways. And the different pathways accept applications for projects up to 41 months in length and based in official development assistance eligible coastal countries. We'll be talking about community grants today, and those are grants that are up to £250,000 in value. And they should be led by small to medium-sized organisations that are legally registered in eligible coastal countries. And community grants should have projects that focus on contributing to developing new ideas, providing local solutions to local problems, and empowering communities. We're also looking for projects that strengthen local capability and capacity. And that can be of local communities, but also of local organisations. The Partnerships Grant Scheme, for those who are not aware of it, that's a grant size of £500,000 up to £3 million. And these are to be led by medium to large sized organisations, which can be local or international. And they should have the capacity to deliver large scale solutions. These projects focus on partnering with and working alongside local organisations and communities. And they should be implementing scalable approaches via well-established networks to deliver maximum impact. So a bit more on the community grants. So just to give a summary of the main points of the community grants, your grant size should be up to £250,000 in total. But the maximum annual budget value in any given year must not exceed 50% of the lead organisation's annual income. And we'll talk a bit more about that later in the session. Your project country can be any ODA eligible coastal country, and our eligible countries are already published on our website, so you can check that list to see if your country is eligible. Projects can last between 12 and 41 months, up to the 31st of March in 2029. And projects that are awarded in this round would be due to start around November, December in 2025 this year. As I mentioned before, lead organisations should be small to medium-sized organisations. We define this as organisations under £1 million in annual income, and they should be legally registered in an eligible coastal country. Your organisation needs to be formally established for at least 2 years if you are to apply. You can have a partner organisation in a community grant, but it's not mandatory. But we really recommend this if you are looking to run a really holistic project. So see if there are any partners that would be relevant to work with in your area. And we do accept applications in multiple languages. The languages that we accept at the moment are English, French, Indonesian, Portuguese, and Spanish. So just to summarize what project proposals should look like in community grants, they need to support a reduction in multidimensional poverty. They need to lead to improved protection, restoration, conservation, or sustainable management of the marine environment. They need to address the needs of and barriers faced by women, people with disabilities, and other marginalised groups to reduce gender and social inequalities. Projects with higher ambitions in this area will be prioritised. Projects will also need to show how they contribute to climate adaptation and mitigation efforts. They need to show a clear understanding of their project's context, and they need to enhance the skills and capacity of local communities and organisations. And all of this should be looking to foster innovation and deliver local solutions to local challenges and empower communities.